Okay. Hello. How are we doing this fine day? So, last time when we were streaming, we were kind of working on some little guild organizations and did a fair bit of brainstorming with our friend Simeon, and yeah, we managed to come up with what I felt to be quite a few good ideas for basically some form of organizations that we can basically kind of establish throughout our worldview. And between last stream and this stream, I was doing some work behind the scenes on how the system is actually going to work in terms of playstyle for player characters, and I kind of researched and referenced a couple of different pre-existing systems, not all of which were even necessarily TTRPG systems either. So D&D, being the fucking stable that it is, was obviously the largest reference, but there was also a more niche system from Shadowrun, I believe it was called, that I use as a bit of a reference or inspiration for how I develop my own stats. So my own stats work completely differently to that system's, but it is structured in a more similar way to that in comparison to D&D itself. Now, I'm probably not going to talk too much about how the system itself is going to play for the time being. That's mostly because I kind of want to make sure it works before I elaborate it on it too much, because I did do a brief 5-minute test of the initial prototype last night with a friend of mine, and it did not work, but it told me what doesn't work, so now I can kind of know what does work, and I think that little test really helped to flesh out the idea in theory, and it's really pushed things in the direction I want them to go. So I'm hoping to do a little bit of a play test later this year with some actual plays in a party setting to get some feedback from them to see how it feels for them. But that is still going to be a little whiles off, most likely. And for the time being, at least, until I've really kind of fleshed the system out, I don't think I'll be doing any playtests themselves on stream, especially since I don't really presently have much of an audience. But maybe in good time, when I've developed some of my own assets, I can probably utilize some things here and there then. Cool. Now, with that said, we have a very important question to ask, which we needed an answer for this morning. Most notably being, what are we going to work on today? And I think the answer I have for this question is that we might continue working on some of these more monstrous races that will kind of be found within our central continent environment here. So let's go ahead and hop into these ogres, because these are probably going to be one of the races that are closest to the pre-existing cultures we've already kind of worked on, most notably the dwarves / elves / the two kind of human cultures of the wizards and knights that we've fleshed out the most. So basically, the idea I have for ogres in general is to be like the thinned out / mutated blood descendants of giants, and therefore titans. And what I really love the idea of is ogres being a hybrid race sprouted from the union of giants and trolls. So, I haven't really touched base much on trolls, but I guess they're infamous for their regeneration aspects, which can lead to mutations. Whereas giants are known for their large frames and massive physical strength. So the idea I have for our ogres is basically to have the kind of larger, stronger frames, inherited more so from the giant side, but while they may not have necessarily inherited the troll's capability for regeneration, I like the idea that they've inherited the innate quote-unquote racial flaw of the trolls for mutations, because I think everyone's kind of more or less aware of the idea of like the twin-headed ogre, and I kind of like the reason that they kind of get twin heads, or some of their kin have a rare chance of breeding with two heads. I kind of like that being a kind of troll mutation kind of thing. So while the trolls themselves may or may not have that kind of it arguably may not even be like a flaw at all. It could be a benefit, like but yeah, that's kind of why I want that to happen there. So ogres are known for their large frames and hulking strength, but they are often also considered to be dim-witted and slow. With that said, thanks to their troll lineage, members of the ogre race have a rare chance of being born into the worlds with mutations, thanks to the unique properties of their troll blood. The most common form of mutation within ogres are ones with high intelligence and or twin heads. Cool. So I love the idea of basically having three kind of tribes of ogres, and you might see me doing this like triple clan kind of setup throughout most of our kind of racial cultures, like having green, red, and grey-skinned orcs, and they all kind of have their own different strengths and specialities and uniquenesses and whatnot. Now, the ogres themselves are a bit different to the other examples of sub-races that I might kind of be doing here. So, the idea with ogres is, while they do have like three different major roles in their society, I'm thinking they'll all kind of live together rather than living separately, like some of the other sub-races might. Okay, so we're thinking standard ogre, intelligent / wise ogre, and twin-headed ogre. We're kind of going to expand on these a little bit here. So, the most common form of ogres are, let's call that primal, actually, are the most famous of them. The perpetual stereotype of the big, slow, strong lug. These make up the bulk of ogre society and labor, and participate in the numerous of activities such as hunting, warfare, and construction. Cool. So they're basically just the big strong dummies, because everyone kind of loves a big strong dummy. Now, the next form of ogre are more uncommon than the last. These ogres, despite having the same large, slow and strong frames as their more common brethren, were gifted with a rare form of wisdom and intelligence that the bulk of their kin do not possess. This intelligence stems from the legendary intellect of their giant and titan ancestors, which was mostly thinned out as a result of giant breeding. Giants breeding with trolls, and the trolls mutated acidic blood, essentially corroding the majority of regular infant ogre brain cells. These rare bearers of intelligence are the few who manage to avoid this corrosion. Essentially, these are the ogres, the rare ogres who carry more giant blood than troll blood. Cool. And then finally, we're also going to have the twin-headed ogres. So, the twin-headed ogres are the ones who have been blessed from both bloodlines. They still carry the unique, strong, large, slow frames as the rest of their brethren. They also have two tiers of intellect. The raw, primal savageness of their common counterparts embody the mind and personality of one head, and the wisdom, intellect, and leadership of the more uncommon ogre brethren often represent the personality and character of the second head. Twin-headed ogres are exceptionally rare. Generally, only one is ever present within any one clan at a time. When they are around, they are the de facto leaders of their societies, as they can commune effectively with both members of their clan and can represent both accordingly. Let me just fix some of that up. Not sure why that's capitalizing that, but okay. Now, I think there was something else I kind of wanted to add in here. Yes, so, in the rarest of times when two twin-headed ogres emerge within the same clan, it is generally only a matter of time before they fight to the death for the right to rule, as the wise and intelligent side of them inhabits also the ambition and cunning that emerges from the sentience of their slower half. Cool. This often leads to young twin-headed ogres being killed or exiled, which is why if you ever find a lone ogre away from its clan, it's generally the twin-headed ones trying to survive in their own way. Perfect. So yeah, that's kind of the idea of what I want to do with these guys, and so I'm thinking a bit right now. So I mentioned the trolls kind of breeding with the giants that has kind of created this ogre race, essentially. And it's worth kind of noting the kind of role I want trolls to play in this worldview, and taking some inspiration from the Warcraft universe. I love the idea of trolls being this ancient, expansive, like, empire society who used to be, like, everywhere. And while this may not necessarily be final at this stage, I do somewhat love the idea of them being the progenitors of a lot of half races, so to speak. Like here, for example, the ogres are a byproduct of the giants and trolls, whereas maybe goblins are descended from trolls and orcs, or something. So again, none of that is final right now, but it is definitely something that we're going to keep in mind as we go forward designing these races. Now, with that said, let's think a bit more about the mountain tribe. Near these nations in general. So, the Mountain Ogre clan in the expansive mountain range that borders the two halves of the central continent generally keep to themselves, question mark. They are helmed by a ambitious twin-headed ogre leader who commands a dozen high-ranking shaman who oversee the rest of the hundreds of ordinary ogre clansmen. Now, while the clan itself as a whole may be seen as somewhat primitive, especially due to their general lack of care for hygiene and or clothing, the leadership of the intelligence ogres brings purpose and community to the otherwise lacking in sentience common ogre rabble. So I'm thinking the ogre clansmen leaders establish the rules and laws of their primitive society and offer an overall direction in terms of culture and civilization development to the rest of their people. To that end, they coordinate the slower, dumber ogre clansmen to basically direct them in terms of knowing where to hunt and when, how to fight and where, as well as what to build and how. Cool. Now, so what kind of relationship would these guys have with these other kind of people? So let's think about the mountain range itself, because we need to get an idea of kind of what's where. So, because I do like want some drakes and stuff up here potentially at some point. So, the mountain range. Let me think a bit about the map we have so far. So, I'd say mountain range starts at the northwest of the central continent and parts a large scar through the center of it, separating the continent in two. The east side of the mountain range is one large, expansive desert. The west side is a more lush valley of forests and plains. So, starting from northwest, so we're going to have the Alchemist Nation, Wizard Nation, Knight Nation, and then those are going to connect to the Theocracy slash the Celtic Nation here as well, because it's technically there. Now they'll connect to the Theocracy and the Ancient Roman Empire, and then okay, so that's the mountain range west side, and then we'll have the mountain range east side. Okay, and that'll be like starting from northeast. So we're gonna have the Persian slash Troll empires, and that'll kind of connect down to the Babylonian Empire. And that'll kind of connect back down to the Roman Empire from there, and then the Greek islands south of the main continent are separated from the mountain range as a whole. Cool. So now that we've kind of established that, so the Theocracy is going to be more so to the southwest, doesn't have a natural land border which connects to the mountain range, and then do that. Cool. And we'll put a special note down here for the Roman Empire. So the large, expansive Roman Empire connects from west to east. The southern end of the mountain range parts and ends within the Roman Empire's lands. Cool, so I kind of like that. Now, we need to think a little bit about where these guys are going to be. So I'll also put Babylonian city-state to the south-east peninsula of the continent. It doesn't have a natural land border with the mountain range either. Right, but you can see, like, aside from these two down here, it pretty much connects with like every other nation on either east or west. So it's going to be pretty huge. Now, I like to think that from north to south, north is the coldest / coolest and windiest, wettest climate. The large northern mountains are the highest and steepest and are the hardest to climb, adventure and explore. These snow-capped peaks are littered with ice caves, and these expansive over the cloud level mountains are where the dragons and drakes and wyverns reside. So we're going to have like a north, a central, and a south kind of section. And I think that'll kind of give us a few good different climates that we can work some different stuff with these mountains for. And I'm just going to go ahead and change that song. Now, let me bring up some research, because we kind of want to look at what different types of climates does a mountain range have. Let's see what kind of results we get here. So we know, of course, we're already going to have like some snow-capped peaks, and I'm thinking maybe the central ones will be more barren and rugged mountains, and then the southern end will be more green and lush mountains. So that will kind of give us a different reason to have different kind of races here and there. So I'm thinking the kind of central barren ones are going to be where the ogres and wyverns reside. And I was thinking of maybe having some kind of griffins up there as well. But I imagine griffins might want to be somewhere a bit more greeny, so they're either going to be in the southern section, but I think I actually want to put them more so within the kind of Greek islands themselves, and have some kind of mountain down there that kind of represents Mount Olympus. Mostly because of how fucking important that place is to like Greek mythos, which we're using as a pretty large inspiration for, especially since we kind of want the Greeks to be a very big monster tamer kind of nation. Now, let's see what hits I have. So we've got the alpine climate, cold temperatures, high winds, heavy snowfall. Yep. So that's going to be the northern one. Yep. Okay, and next we have the central one. So montane climate is a mild summer, cool winter, dense forest. Okay. And then we can have maybe a montane slash foothill climate in the south. Maybe even highland. Alright, I've got a couple more. So this will probably be a bit more like a rain shadow climate on one side. Because that's probably like the peak of the desert side's going to be probably. Temperate mountain climate. Okay. And then we can also have that be temperate on the more barren side, maybe. We'll kind of research that a bit more in depth later, just to make sure we've kind of covered our bases and explored it well, and to make sure it actually makes sense. Because while my 2-minute quick research was enough to get like inspiration for what kind of climates I might like in what areas, in terms of finalizing a lot of that stuff, I'm probably going to talk with like an actual map maker who's actually familiar with like these geographical and climate patterns, to make sure that the kind of world we're putting together is logical and sound, because I do want it to make sense. Cool. So now let me see, what else do we have here? Okay, I think that's roughly good for now. So we know Ogre Kingdom slash borders. The Ogre Kingdom itself lies within the central regions of the mountain range. This results in their empire sharing a land slash mountain border with the wizard and knight nations. Now, if you guys remember, when we were designing those areas, we did say that the kind of wizardy and knight nations would kind of like construct a fortress up in the mountains to like basically help protect their borders from the desert nations on the other side. But that's also to help quell monster threats and monster invasions, such as the case we're going to have with these ogres here. Now the question is more so, are these ogres going to be on the northern or southern side of that fortress, or is the mountain range large and expansive enough that they kind of like encircle it? I think that's kind of how I want it to go. So we'll say ogres encircle the Knight Wizard fortress in a crescent formation as their empire expands from north to south, more so on the eastern desert side of the mountain range, and connects to the other nations below. Cool. So, with that said, the southern end of the Ogre Empire border touches base on the Roman Empire border, who control the southern region of the mountain range. Cool. So I like the kind of the Roman Empire pretty much controlling all of the land and the kind of southern, more inhabitable mountains, and basically fending off from the ogres there. Whereas the kind of wizards and knights are kind of holding these ogres at bay from the more western side to help keep them from going that way. Whereas on the northern side, the ogres have the dragons and the drakes, which they don't want to fuck with. And on the eastern side, it's the bland large desert where they came from. Maybe after being like exiled or running away from like more so troll overlords who might have like been slavers or something. I do love the idea of, as cruel as this might sound, as these kind of trolls, the troll empire, kind of being like the origin of slavers, essentially. So if they've gone around like breeding with all these different races and kind of like when they kind of ruled the world and had all these halfkins, essentially, I imagine maybe they would have like tried to slave these sub-races in different ways. I think maybe the trolls themselves were basically being heavily mutated by the strength of their own blood, which kind of resulted to them having to resort to breeding with others, which is why they maybe went out and kidnapped like the elves and the giants and the orcs, and kind of did their thing to try to produce thinner troll bloodlines which would be less prone to mutation, which had various results of varying degrees. There's also like the kind of orc breeding led to some very small and frail bodies, which the trolls kind of gave up on, because they again kind of got a bit mutated and crazy. And then maybe I don't know if I want to be kobolds to be one of those factors, because I'm thinking we're going to have kobolds as well as some form of lizard men, and I want some kind of like draconic connection there. I definitely do not think the trolls had their way with any dragons, but yeah, I'll think a bit further on that one. And in terms of elves, I'm thinking that might have been like the success, because what I like to think of is, in terms of like the elves I'm using, I'm thinking of having some form of wood elf, some form of dark elf, and then some form of high elf. And I'm thinking at this stage, the high elves could be the byproduct of the trolls and the elves. Basically, larger, more intelligent, more magical elven humanoids, which basically inherited the elves' kind of intellect and beauty, as well as the trolls' kind of like a bit more physicality. And with like basically no side effects like any of the others. So I think, yeah, that's how we might end up doing that. You know what, let's head into the trolls now and kind of flesh these ideas out a bit while we're working on them. So, history of trolls. The trolls were once the most dominant force on the planet after the eventual fall of the dragon / titan empires after their world-shattering cataclysmic war. trolls are the main ones who rose up in the absence of the former overlords and dominated over the rest of the planet thanks to their high, quote-unquote, virality, birth rate, monstrous regeneration, and formidable physical might. While they weren't the most physically aesthetic or intelligent race, they weren't as dim-witted as others perceived them to be. Yeah, no, I don't want to call them unintelligent or whatnot. So while they weren't the most physically aesthetic race, they were incredibly ambitious and cunning. This is what led to them creating a global, expansive empire which once connected all 5 continents. So basically, I want some form of troll presence to basically be on every continent. They are the ones who kind of explored and conquered the world before their downfall. After a millennium of conquering the worldscape, the trolls encountered an unexpected problem. Their blood was too strong and too thick. The regeneration of their bodies led to unique, twisted mutations which deformed and warped even the most influential of trolls, which led to unexpected side effects such as difficulties breathing, walking, moving, and even fighting. This made everyday life incredibly difficult for them. As a result of this, the trolls established a new ambition to cure their own people from the cursed, twisted blight of their blood. To that end, the once proud troll empire, which originally exclusively bred solely amongst their own kind, began to seek out other races to breed with in an attempt to thin their blood and create the ultimate troll race, which wouldn't be killed off as a result of their own mutations. Having expanded all over the world as they had, these are the examples of some of the races they enslaved and bred with, and the results of the breeding process. So, we've already mentioned giants spawned ogres. Orcs spawned goblins. I'd say elves spawned high elves and high trolls. So similar to like how the high elves might basically be larger, more intelligent, cunning and ambitious elven folk. The high trolls, I imagine, like the ultimate of what they wanted to achieve. So basically, they maintained the physicality and appearance of the trolls, but their rough and bumpy, coarse, rugged textured skin kind of smoothed out and gained some more of the trolls' beauty and aesthetics. And their blood thinned enough to maintain some form of regeneration, maybe without the mutations, and basically a kind of new order was established with the high trolls at the center. Now, I do like the idea of a few more races potentially being involved in this process. So I'm just going to go ahead and quickly check my background notes just to see what other kind of races we have been working with. So we've already noted, like, we have the elementals, which aren't really a race. Some of the devils, demons, and quote-unquote angels, they're going to be a bit separate. So we have the dwarves, which are pretty much going to be no-go because they can't really be bred with. The Shra, Avia, and Wildkin are interesting. But I don't know if they would have bred with any of the more animalistic races, because they might have seen that as being undesirable. They probably wanted some form of more humanoid appearance, maybe like less fur, less feathers. Yeah, I'd say they're probably a bit more concerned about other excessive mutations with those other kinds of racial creatures. In which case, yeah, I think they might not have wanted or really cared for the lizard folk or kobolds in those cases either. I imagine the lizard folk to be basically an equivalence of like the other kind of wildkin tribes and whatnot. Seems like the insectoids / plant folk. So I'm just going to go ahead and add some notes in my background. So insectoids, I'll put there, as well as like plant folk. Because I don't imagine they would want to do anything with those for the same kind of reason. Undead would definitely be off the charts. Fae, maybe this is... Fae kind of maybe were a bit more in another plane, maybe they couldn't have touched them. I did like the idea of maybe like the elves being descended of a union from troll and fae, but I think with elves I kind of want them to be more like world tree sprouted kind of deal. So maybe we keep the fae in like their own little like pocket world, so they wouldn't have had much interaction. Yeah, so I guess the only other one, I need to determine how I'm going to basically treat kobolds. So we have dragons, which are basically the progenitor rivals of the titans, and similar to how titans spawned giants, we're going to say the dragons kind of sprouted some form of drakes. Now, I'd love I really love the idea of kobolds believing themselves to be like the descendants of the drakes. But yeah, maybe what we'll do is we'll do them similar to goblins, and we'll say, these guys did do the lizards, and that's how the kobolds came to be. And they probably want to like deny that heritage, maybe. And yeah, kobolds being kobolds, that's similar to like goblins. That's probably why the trolls immediately gave up on that idea. Okay, yeah, no, I think I'm pretty cool with that, because you basically don't need them to have done something with everything. I think 4 is more than enough here. Finally here. Hey Cherry, how are you? Welcome to the stream. I'm talking about slavery and intercourse. That's something. But yeah, no. So I think I'm pretty happy with having decided on those. Now, I kind of need to think about what I want to continue with here, especially in terms of like the kind of ogre mountain clan that we kind of connected to this from. So, let's talk about the history of the trolls / mountain ogres. So originally, the desert troll empire in the central continent, upon having the difficulties of their mutated blood, went to war with the descendant giants present within the same lands. Now, the trolls manage to conquer a small number of giants, mostly thanks to their larger numbers and regenerative properties. And basically, we'll say, had their way with some of the giants. Now, you're good? Well, I'm glad you're good. Hopefully the topic doesn't bring you down a little here. But yeah, so and had their way with some of the giants. This sprouted the first instance of ogres within the central continent. Cool. And now, just thinking a little bit about this, I kind of mentioned before I want the ogres to be a bit different to some of the other kind of racial subtypes that I mentioned before. So rather than like splitting the ogres into different clans, they're basically going to have this one kind of large clan. Now, I kind of need to think here as to whether or not the ogres are going to be in kind of more than one location, and I do think there are going to be some of the northern continent, basically because of how I plan on building that kind of place. And I guess I can ignore the other continents for now and just think about them standalone in this one kind of environment. Okay, cool. So, the ogres born into slavery within the troll empire found them using their large, hulkish frames, dim-witted intelligence, and and pure brute strength to do all the manual labor in terms of constructing the great expanse of architecture and buildings of the Desert Troll Empire. While the ogres themselves were not the desired results, and the trolls' efforts to thin their blood to save their people, they were happy with producing more to help prevent their own people from doing this form of labor. Now, I'm just going to leave those be. Cool. With that said, let's see. The ogres remained the slaves of the trolls for many decades, until one day a rare mutation appeared. I'm going to continue that in a moment. On occasion, the ogres would sprout forth a rare ogre possessing intelligence. Whenever these intelligent ogres showed signs of their awareness, they were watched carefully and monitored by the troll overlords, and were eventually put into roles of supervision over the rest of their brethren to help prevent the trolls from having to bother with this themselves. Cool. So, from there, while the intelligent ogres remained obedient for the sake of a better personal lifestyle, they were still overall dissatisfied with their situation, but lacked the proper strength and cunning to lead any form of revolt or rebellion against the might of the troll overlords. And that will bring us back down to here. The ogres remained the slaves of the trolls for many decades, until one day a rare mutation appeared, the birth of the first twin-headed ogre. Attempting to keep the secret of this... Actually... Yeah, so attempting to keep the identity of this ogre a secret at first, the trolls, who had slowly continued to lack any kind of awareness, alert, or supervision of the ogres, remained unaware of this twin-headed ogre's birth. The intelligent ogres took advantage of this and kept the twin-headed ogre secret, slowly taking their time over the years to teach him of their ways, while keeping him out of view of the troll empire overlords. The twin-headed ogre, ambitious and cunning as he was, learned to despise troll overlords for putting their race into slavery, and thus the twin-headed ogre came to be of an appropriate age. They were the ones who spearheaded the charge to start a rebellion within the Troll Empire ranks. They coordinated with the other intelligent ogres and then utilized their dim-witted half to motivate the slower ogres and instill them with morale, starting let's say instilling instill them with morale, stoking the fires of rebellion, which the slower ogres utilized to forcibly push their way out. Under the twin-headed ogre's lead, while many of their ogre brethren fell, they managed to escape the confines of slavery within the Troll Empire and escaped into the desert sands. While the trolls hunted them down atop their sandworms, the ogres were successful in escaping to the mountain ranges to the west, which they scaled and climbed, which the earthworms could not reach. Cool. And now, upon scaling the mountains, entering the territory of dragons, drakes, and wyverns, the trolls gave up on pursuit, assuming the ogres would eventually be killed by the winged threats above, daring not to antagonize the dragons themselves. Trolls returned to their empire, more or less in one piece, despite some damage to their architecture. Ever since then, the trolls kept a careful eye on the ogre population that remained within their ranks, and closely oversaw the birth of any new ogres, being sure to swiftly quench the arrival of any new twin-headed mutations, while keeping a much more closeful eye on the rest, with a much stricter, fiercer, and more painful form of slavery. Alright, so, the ogres are pretty fucked. But yeah, no, I think that's the story of how these kind of central kind of mountain range ogres came to be. So with that said, let's think a bit more about the kind of mountainous empire that these ogres founded. So, upon arriving in the mountain range, the twin-headed ogre escaped troll slavery successfully, became the leader of these ogre people. Only 2 or 3 of the intelligent ogres successfully escaped with him, many of the others being devoured by sandworms during their escape, mostly as a result of sacrificing their lives to assist their twin-headed leader in getting away. Of the few dozen common ogre who managed to escape with them, they all cheered and reveled as a result of winning their freedom, despite the blood price that was paid. The twin-headed ogre promised that one day they would return to overthrow the troll empire and rescue the rest of their brethren from slavery, but for now they would have to bide their time, build their strength, and increase their numbers. Cool. Now, to that end, the ogres decided unanimously to stay within the mountain range. Despite the threat of the dragons, the dragons were also a form of protection, keeping them safe from the trolls below. Now, upon exploring, the ogres came to learn that the other side of the mountain range, despite being much more abundant, is also filled with already established civilized folk. Not having the numbers or power to contest with them in a war, the ogres kept quiet, biding their time on the more barren part of the mountain range, and slowly but surely building their empire over time. From what started as caves, which expanded to boulder carved housing, while the quote-unquote ogre empire itself was a little lacking in design, it was still a far improved life of freedom for the ogres over the slavery that they once found themselves captive to. The ogres continued to hunt, expand, building their numbers, learning new techniques, crafting their own crude tools and weapons. Although the leaders knew that this would not be enough. They needed power. Unique power exclusively to them that the other races that threatened them would not be able to emulate. This is where and how the might of the ogre shamans began. Cool. So now, shaman or shamans themselves are probably a well enough known kind of quote-unquote magic system that has kind of been reused and repurposed throughout different forms of media at different times in different ways. So, what I'm going to do now is do some research into shamans and just kind of learn about what they are, where they're kind of from, what they're capable of, things like that. So, where is the origin of shamans? What do shamans do? What are they capable of? So let's see what kind of hits we get as a result of this, because basically I need to come up with some... I've kind of mentioned before, I more or less want every culture or nation or class, whatever, to basically have their own kind of unique power system, apart from just hitting something with a weapon. It doesn't necessarily have to be a form of faith or magic in and of itself, but just enough of something to give them some kind of basis to be able to stand on their own feet as their own kind of power. So the concept of shamanism is ancient and widespread, with roots in various indigenous cultures across the world. So, Siberia and Central Asia, as well as indigenous cultures worldwide. So, many anthropologists trace the term shaman to the Tungusic Evenki language of Siberia, where it means one who knows. Siberian shamanism is one of the oldest and most documented forms, with shamans acting as intermediaries between the physical and spiritual worlds. So, let's bring up a little thing here for ogre shamans. So, shamans are spiritualists who connect the physical and spiritual world. So it's really the spiritual vibe that we really kind of want to get into here. Shamanistic practices have also been identified in indigenous cultures. While each culture has unique practices and beliefs, they often share some common elements such as communion with spirits and the use of altered states of consciousness. So how or why would they kind of get access to this power system? The kind of intelligent / wise ogres who have kind of developed this communion with nature or the spiritual world. So, they are the leaders and the healers of their community. That kind of ties in pretty well with what we kind of want here. Drumming, chanting, dancing, as well as psychoactive substances are all tools utilized by shaman to connect to the spiritual world. Is shaman the plural? No, I don't think it has a plural. Cool, we'll leave that for now. Alright, let's see what else. the trances, etc. Cool. So they're seen as like the healers, divinization, healers, divination, guides, etc. Let's see, what else do we have? Capabilities of shaman. So spirit communion is the big one. Apparently, shape-shifting is too. Quote-unquote flight is another one, but I believe that's more so in terms of like spirit kind of stuff. Weather control and psychopomp work. Okay, so let's see. I love the basically the spirit vibe, like spirits of nature and or like ancestral communion, because I really feel like the ogres essentially revering their twin-headed leaders as they do. Like maybe it has a large source of power for them. Like we'll need to answer at some point as to like the life cycle of these ogres to even determine whether their twin-headed leader in their prime is even still alive in the modern context of the world we're making in the day it's kind of going to be present in. Now, aside from that, let me see. What else do we have? So some can apparently transform into animals. I don't think I really want that for shaman in this case, especially since that's kind of more in type with the druidic thing we've kind of been working on. And I don't know if I want them to be quote-unquote healers themselves, because I want healing to be a pretty rare kind of niche thing that's really difficult for people to get access to. So I do like definitely the spirit communion and ancestral communion aspects the most. So we're going to get rid of healing. Divination I'm unsure of. We're going to get rid of shape-shifting. Weather control is interesting, especially given both the climate of where these ogres came from, as well as the climate in which they now kind of find themselves as well, because I imagine them having the ability to like conjure or bring rain, especially, could be a bit of an interesting feat. It's probably worth noting that originally when I was kind of theory crafting what I would kind of want for power systems in terms of these different cultures and races throughout the world, is I briefly entertained the idea of the ogres being like rune users as well, and basically saying that the reason they kind of can use these runic languages is thanks to their giant descended kind of part of them. But basically, because of the history we kind of constructed for this race, how it's come into being and whatnot, that's not really going to be as apparent or useful here. So I'll probably use the runic systems elsewhere. I definitely want one of them to be like a draconic-based runic system in like kind of like the northern continent, Scandinavian region. But I will need some kind of giant ties elsewhere. But I think I'm more so thinking of the dwarves themselves for being those ones, and that sounds just very fitting to me. because I want the doors to essentially be the descendants of some kind of forefather / allfather, and it really makes a lot of sense for their progenitor to be one of these titans. Now, while whether manipulation sounds cool as shit, you can also do some insanely nutty stuff with it. So I kind of got to tie this in a little with how I've designed other power systems in terms of balancing, and just thinking about to what extent I may want what powers to be available as, because basically the immediate question is, if these guys can do like weather manipulation and spiritual communion, should they kind of be able to do both at once? Is it like the power or the capability of a single role, or is it kind of split between a few different classes? Because basically what I'm more or less trying to determine is how many of these ogres would be capable of what, because in terms of weather manipulation, I kind of want to limit that to just like the twin-headed ogre leaders, but maybe the kind of wise ogres can do some form of like spiritual ancestral communion, even if they don't have access to the weather manipulation powers. But the question in that case is, what would be the reason for that and why? Because basically the idea is that I want player characters to all be able to gain access to the majority of power systems that they might like to be able to get access to. And in terms of these ogres, I need to come up with like a reasoning as to the hows and whys of basically how that power system works. As might have noted in the research we just briefly did, that these historical traditional ancestral shaman kind of relied on like dances and chants and essentially some form of narcotics to be able to perform the feats for their communions. And while that itself may not necessarily be a problem, I kind of need to have a somewhat of an in-world reason to kind of limit the extent of availability of their power, just to say, hey, like, even if that is how these powers are like manifested or triggered, I kind of need to have some form of basis, just so not everyone is capable of using all of those powers kind of willy-nilly, however they want, whenever they want, wherever they want, essentially. So, while we could think about it being a bloodline thing, I don't necessarily want this power itself to be a bloodline thing. Mostly because that would bring the question as to whether or not like trolls and giants, which they're descended from, are capable of doing them as well. But also I don't want to limit this to purely ogres, because I basically want anyone to kind of be able to do it within reason. To that extent, so while the narcotics thing kind of sounds fine, I think I wanted it to be more along like a spiritual requirement, such as you have to be the right kind of person or personality to kind of really revere and worship your ancestors and the spirits of the world and the environment and whatnot to be able to do this. And I think that is along the lines of what we'll do. So how do we trigger it? I like the idea of some kind of like insight into the unknown slash maybe mind's eye or a third eye kind of thing. Maybe even like the ability to see or interact with like ghosts or otherwise transparent undead, which may otherwise not be able to be perceived or something, essentially. So, if we want to do that, basically we could say the ogres themselves have basically concocted some form of hallucinogenic, which basically allows one to enter that state, and entering that state is what kind of unlocks these powers, but you also need to be of the right kind of state of mind or personality to achieve this. Yeah, no, I think that's the direction we'll go. So, let me type this down. Shamans are born from the communion of spirit and man. Shamans have the capability to enter, perceive, and commune with the spiritual world. This is achieved through the creation of a hallucinogenic tonic which the user may imbibe, which opens their mind's eye and grants them access to this power. Becoming a shaman is requires a trance. The hallucinogenic itself is not enough. Also need the accompaniment. Definitely which of those? Of traditional slash primal music, dance, and chanting, which allows, and I'm going to say during twilight, setting of the sun and rising of the moon, or vice versa. Where the connection with the spiritual world is strongest. Upon becoming a shaman, one's mind's eye opens and they gain true sight. They can see invisibility, in addition to intangible slash transparent creatures like ghost, as well as camouflaging entities such as chameleons, respective monsters. Cool. So I think that's a really cool thing, because who doesn't love being able to see everything? Now, additionally, the capability of seeing the spirits allows one to commune with them as well, which often impart secrets and wisdom, among other things, to those who seek answers to the right questions. Now, while that sounds cool in and of itself, do we want to extend this to some form of weather manipulation? So basically the question is, more so, do I want every class to essentially have some kind of combat feat? Because I'm thinking rather than weather manipulation in this case, one could borrow the power of the spirits, either by having spirits attack enemies on their behalf, or by allowing one to enter their body. And I think I love that idea a lot more. I definitely want to do something with weather manipulation at some stage, but I think focusing more on the spiritual aspect here feels right. Especially with these ogres' connection with their kind of more intelligent ancestors, and especially their leaders, like the twin-headed ones. Shamans have the capability of requesting spirits to assist them in battle, whether it be by attacking enemies directly, or by allowing them to possess one's body and temporarily display their once living martial might. I think that's a really cool idea. Cool. So that gives some form of like requirement and quest to access its power, as well as a potential like scaling level in terms of like these spiritual connections and possessions, because basically there's a few ways you can kind of utilize it, and a few drawbacks as well. Like, for instance, the spirits want to help you, to actually lend their help. And so like stronger, more powerful spirits only respect stronger, more powerful shaman, essentially. So you can only command any given number at a time, probably only allow one to possess you at any given time. There's really like a limit to the amount of strength you can borrow, especially in the possession aspect, is what I kind of imagine is a very strong-willed individual spirit who's kind of lingering around in the overworld, may want to forcibly possess your body and basically get rid of your consciousness, and yeah, basically just take you over completely. Because that can lead to a lot of interesting plot threads and usages and everything else as well. So I think I am pretty happy with that for now. And I imagine if we do have other ogres elsewhere, they may have basically established the same kind of system via a different combination of materials, or maybe the other tribes kind of got more so access to this weather manipulation aspect. If we do want to bring that further into play elsewhere, such as the ones I do plan on having in the northern continent. Because thinking about it now, so we're definitely going to have the ogres in the central and the north, and if I do have them anywhere else, I don't think we'll have any at all on the eastern continent. And I'm kind of half and half about maybe not having some of the south, although I think it's definitely likely that we'll also have them in the west, because the west It's basically going to be the land of like big, bad, strong things, where probably most of the giants and dragons were, and probably the least kind of developed human civilizations, just because of how plentiful and strong and powerful all the monster predator races are, which is, yeah, pretty much led to all sorts of like chaos and shenanigans happening on that end. Now, what else do I kind of need or want to do here? I think we've made pretty good work, just in terms of like fleshing out these ogres and these trolls especially. I guess I can think a little bit more about the connection these mountain ogres have with the nearby humans, but I don't know, I feel like I kind of got to flesh out the workings of that human fortress a bit more first as well, because I imagine while the humans may not necessarily like the ogre presence there, I also don't think they would be the types who antagonize them without a reason. They are more there to protect their borders rather than there to invade other borders. So while they may like have some scouting parties and kind of like venture around the kind of ogre empire's lands and area, they'd probably be more inclined to maintain some form of diplomatic relationship. They feel themselves to be capable of some form of healthy communication rather than war. Alright, well, with that said, yeah, let's hop back out here and take a look at some of these other races. So, the Wildkin in particular, I kind of need to think about whether or not I want them to have more tribes within the central continent. Because right now I'm kind of thinking I wouldn't mind also having maybe some kind of wolf tribe here, or in the north. Let's see. Yeah, maybe we'd have some kind of wolf tribe in the north, and let's go back out to our other racial cultures, and let's go into the Wildkin now, and just think about what tribes we might like where. So, we're definitely going to have their tribe in central continent, fox tribe in east continent, horse tribe in east continent, lion tribe in west continent, wolf tribe in north continent. Yeah, so basically I just kind of want to think about what are the most prominent examples of beast people races. So tiger tribe in east continent for sure. Tigers are fucking staunch as shit. Maybe some kind of jaguar or panther tribe in the south continent. Because we kind of want to have quite a few of these more or less everywhere. So we do have like the generic kind of cat tribe. Western continent will have some kind of jackal tribe, thanks to the kind of Egyptian mythos inspirations. I think maybe a bull tribe in the central continent, and that's mostly for the Minotaur inspiration. What else do we have? Maybe even some form of goat tribe in central continent. Question mark for now. Because I'm kind of thinking like satyrs and fawns, maybe, but what else do we have? Give me more examples of tribes based on land mammals. So let's see what else we kind of get here. So I don't necessarily know if I want some kind of generic cat/dog tribe, just because there's like way too many individual species of a lot of those. I think I already have like wolves, foxes, and jackals for canine, so that's fine. Then felines, we have lions, tigers, and panthers, which is good. Yeah, so we'll make that panther, not jaguar. And ursine tribes, so we've got like bear folk. We could also have some form of panda folk, but I don't know, I feel like that's a bit too specific. I want them to be a bit more general or generalized. We have rodent tribes, so we could do like rats, squirrels, beavers. I'm gonna put the ones I'm sure of over on this side. So, goats, rats, beavers, squirrels. Deer folk. I love the idea of some kind of like stag ones. Elephants, rhinos, hippos. Again, just kind of listing out a bunch of general animals I wouldn't really mind. Kangaroos, raccoons. Yeah, we're getting some good kind of hit examples here. Because I do want basically the wildcat themselves to basically have a shit ton of subspecies. Probably like the most equivalent in numeracy in comparison to like human cultures. But I don't want to basically represent every animal as well at the same time. Okay, so there's cheetahs, there's lynx, there's hyena, there's coyote. Quite a few interesting ones. I don't mind the idea of hyenas or coyotes, but if I were to put them anywhere, it'd be the west, and they're already going to have the jackals most likely. I think I'm good without cheetah, but a lynx could be interesting as well. A polar bear tribe, I don't mind. A porcupine one could be interesting, but kind of niche. Antelope, buffalo. Armadillo. Do I have badgers? No, I don't. Badgers especially could be interesting, because badgers get pretty crazy. Like, honey badgers go hard. And I'll get a couple more listings, and I'll kind of like keep doing a bit of search until I start getting some like repeat animals showing, because I do want them to be more unique if possible. So I think that the big three are kind of like canine, feline, ursine, and hoofed, basically. And since we did list polas. I'll relist pandas just in case, but yeah, I'm not fully sure of them right now. Alrighty. So, what else do we have? Here are even more examples of tribes. I'm getting a bit of lag here. Let's see. Oh, mammoths sound interesting. What a doll. What a doll. I've never heard of this animal before. Okay, I see. There seems to be an Asian kind of dog. But, I think we're kind of already using foxes there. So jaguar. Yeah, what's the difference between a jaguar and a panther? I know panthers are the big black ones. Jaguars are more like, cheetahs or leopards. Yeah, I think I'll stick with panthers for now. Though I think I will take a quick note on the side. It has some form of cheetah slash leopard slash jaguar. Just because we don't have any of these spotted cats listed down. Snow leopards could also be interesting. Cool. Okay, apparently there's a bear called the Spectacled Bear. It's making me think of, oh, they're tiny. At least that one is. That looks like a baby one. Interesting. We also have like a chinchilla. Do I have gazelle? I don't think I do. Basically just listing a bunch of different ones down. So mammoths, I love the idea of basically just like this big, large, staunch plan. Emas, we also have possums slash opossums. Haven't heard of an opossum before. Tapir. Aardvarks. Bison. Again, I'll get one or two more pits because I'm still not getting a lot of repeats as of yet. But once I do kind of finish up getting some of these down, we'll see just about thinking of like where we may potentially want to put some of these folk in the world. Just to kind of spread them a bit throughout the different continents. But again, especially, I really want to have the bulk of them in the east, if I can. So we may try to have a few more examples of ones there. Let's see. So wolves, jackals. Okay, so now I'm starting to get some repeats. So this might be where I stop searching. So we also have a giraffe. I don't know about doing giraffes. That might be a bit ridiculous. We could have some form of like, let's see, good old cougars. We could do something a bit saucy with them. I'm pretty sure I listed beavers already. Yeah. Elk. Zebra, wolverines, and mongoose could be interesting as well. Bats, I feel like I could do something fun with, but that might be more the Avia tribe if we kind of go down that part. Now we also have the ferrets, the ibex, copy, sloth. The sloth would be fun. Aurochs I haven't heard of before. And I think that'll be good for now, just in terms of like searching. So again, I haven't really finalized whether or not I'll be limiting myself to 5 continents. That's just going to be where the bulk of the cultures are going to be. So there could still be like other prominent landmasses elsewhere. And maybe they have like some kind of dino folk or something. Though if I do have some form of dino folk, it'll mostly be probably just literal dinosaurs. Rather than like humanoid ones, because we already got the lizardmen for that. So, Central Continent for sure. You guys are going to have the Bear tribe, that's certain, as well as the Bull tribe. Those are going to be things that we have. The East Continent, you are definitely going to have the Fox tribe, as well as the Tiger tribe, as well as the Horse tribe. Those are also certainties. Now, the Lion tribe is definitely going to be in the west. I'll revisit Jackal in a bit. Now, the North Continent. And the South Continent. So I think we're definitely going to have the Panther tribe in the south. Okay. Now I kind of just need to think a bit else about what we might want where. So I think we'll definitely go with the Mammoth tribe, which will be in the north, which basically means we're not going to have the elephants. Because I don't want to have too much overlap, especially since I don't mind the idea of having both the rhino and hippo tribes. Now, I need to think a bit more about some of these ones, as well as what we might want to do where. So I think we're definitely going to have some kind of polar bear tribe in the north. And let's see what else we have. And I don't mind the idea of a snow leopard one either. Because that basically gets me the kind of feline type I wanted, without sacrificing any of the others. Although we could still have a feline tribe in Central Continent. Because basically we have a feline tribe in every other continent right now. So we'll kind of revisit thinking about having one there. Now, what else do we have? We have a lot. So I'm not gonna lie, I don't know if I'll do anything with like the fucking moles. Although it's worth considering as to whether do I want any underground wildkin tribes, because basically I want to kind of limit them to mostly to like kind of land-based mammals, if I can. Especially since one of the other things I'm doing is having like the aviar tribes, so like flying kind of races like bird folk, as well as like the basically the Jura, which is the collective for like underwater kind of humanoid fishy races like mermaids and shit. And then we're also having like plant folk as well as like insectoid folk. So I think if we have the insectoids ones especially, like we already have ants and whatnot, that can kind of cover a lot of what I want from maybe some underground ones. And bats could theoretically play the same role there. So I'm thinking like moles I'm probably not going to do. Let's see. Kind of going to highlight some of these for now. Kangaroo. Oh man. I'm a fucking Aussie, so this just feels weird to me. I'm gonna leave that for later. Now, goats. I'm thinking, yeah, we'll have some kind of goat tribe in the central, after all. That kind of feels fitting for what it is. Now, let's revisit canine tribes, because canines are another kind of one that feels like it could have a tribe in each kind of continent, really. So we've got the fox tribe here. You can kind of put the jackal tribe here. And I'm kind of tempted to have snow walls as well as like regular walls, just because I really love walls and I think they're really cool. Which kind of leaves me with a couple of options for a southern canine tribe. So we've got the hyenas, the coyotes, and the lynx. And I think the lynx themselves I kind of like the idea of, and I think they're the most appropriate for there. So let me think. Are there any lynx in South America? Okay, so there aren't any lynxes in South America, apparently. But I still think lynx are really cool. So whether or not I can use them or not. Let's see, so lynxes are mostly in North America, Europe, and Asia. Wildcat species include animals such as the jaguar, puma, ocelot, and magpie. Okay, so the lynx is more of a feline, apparently. Okay, real quick, I just want to look up what an ocelot is. Okay, it's basically just like a cute small leopard. I mean, I've always heard of them, but I'd never really seen them before. And the magpie are pretty much the same. Okay. What canine species are native to South America? And while that loads, I'm also going to look up the links real quick. Yeah. Oh, apparently, lynx is going to also be in like snowy areas. We've kind of already got one everywhere. Actually. Yeah, no, we could do a lynx in the central. That actually works out well. Cool, so we've got our feline continent, feline in the central continent. And in the southern continent, we have, let's see. When my little thing here loads, I'll keep reviewing that, but okay, so we've got the mammoths in the north. In the west we want some form of, you know what, maybe we will do an elephant tribe in the east. And then we can do maybe a hippo slash rhino in the west. And what kind of species have skin like hippos, rhinos, and elephants, like ivory and whatnot? Okay, let's see. So we've got the elephants, we have the rhinos, the hippos. Okay, apparently the bisons also have thick skin. Oh, okay, we have walruses, but that's probably more going to be like giraffe. Okay, we got armadillos. I'm just thinking about similar kind of animals we can have in each kind of place. Apparently iguanas as well, but apart from that, most of them are kind of, yeah. Camels, crocs, iguanas. Camels, crocs, iguanas. And then just like a bunch of underwater, marine kind of animals. Badges. Cool. So again, I could think about the crocs as well, but yeah, I mean they're more of an aquatic creature than a land creature in my mind, even if they are kind of hybridy. Maybe maybe we'll kind of review that at a later point. But for now, we have the elephant tribe, the hippo slash rhinos. So, are hippos native to South America? Okay, hippos aren't native, but it looks like there are some that were kind of brought there. How about rhinos? Okay. And some are in South America as well for the rhinos, but it looks like they were based on things that escaped. I mean, I'm saying like I didn't want to do something with crocs here because they're more aquatic, but I mean bloody hippos are as well, so what's up, you know? So elephants here, mammoths there, one of these two here, and then maybe like crocs, rhinos, and hippos elsewhere. Okay, so if I were to put one of those anywhere, it would end up being like the rhinos somewhere else. I mean, I could also just have both, kind of. I think I'll get rid of the lizards, because I already have like the lizard folk specifically. I don't think I really like the idea of a human camel person. I do have a couple others here, so probably no to that. So I definitely want to do something with honey badgers somewhere, which we'll kind of review. Maybe we could have some kind of... Yeah, I'm thinking we'll do some kind of like crocodile tribe here, just because I'm thinking like the West is basically going to have like Egypt, ancient Egypt as the inspiration for its most prominent kind of culture, and I mean Nile crocodile just makes too much sense. Let's see. I kind of put hippos and rhinos off to the side for now. and just put in brackets central/south, and we can review that. Armadillos, I'm a little unsure of at present. In the meantime, I think my thing finally loaded. So the South America has like maned wolves, bush dogs, crab-eating foxes, short-eared dogs. Culpio. What is a culpio? Let's look that up quickly. Okay. Yeah. Then we have different foxes. Okay. And where are honey badgers native to? Africa and Asia. Okay. What species do honey badger belong to? Okay, so they don't really belong to any of the other kind of big ones. They're more so kind of like... They make me think of like a bit more like ratty or rodent, but they also kind of make me think of like bears because they're such staunch units. So I'll think of like honey badgers being their own thing, maybe with like Tasmanian devils or something. Because I really want to get them some representation too. Alright, so you got the five felines, 5 ursine, and 5 canine. I love the idea of 5 elephant hippo-esque stuff, 5 honey badger, Taz devil kind of ones. Let's see, what else do we have? Cool, so 5 hoofers. So we kind of got the bit of a combo, the goats and the bulls there for now. Maybe I can kind of move one of them somewhere, so I think the goat tribe we can kind of pull off in this Scandinavian region. So we've got bears, bulls, wolf, and lynx. Then we have like a couple more here to fall. Okay. No, I think I've got a general idea of how I'm kind of formulating the what's and where's of how I want some of this stuff to be. So, we got a few aquatic ones, but I don't necessarily know if I want an aquatic one itself to be like in every kind of nation or whatever. So I think some of this is fine for now. Apart from that, what else do I kind of want to do with them? Let me see. So it's probably worth noting at this point, even though I'm kind of like roughly basing these on the 5 quote-unquote major continents like North and South America, Asia, Europe, and Africa, you've noticed the lack of probably Australian and Antarctic representation, and mostly because Antarctica is fucking Antarctica, and well, Australia is fucking Australia. So I think if anything what I might end up doing is basically having some Antarctic representation in the northern continent and maybe some Australian representation in the southern continent, if that makes sense. So, with that said, let's continue thinking here a little bit, because I don't necessarily need these to be like perfect ones-for-ones of everything. So, West Continent, I'm going to have some zebra tribes, because why not? Although I do want also there to be like the some kind of like gazelle thing or whatever somewhere. So let's pair some of these things up. So wolverines and mongoose I'm going to kind of pair with like the honey badgers and Tasmanian devils. Then we're also going to have like antelope / deers and stags and hawk and gazelle. Did I list those anywhere? Gazelle? No. Okay. I'll put that here. Oh, I did. I just missed it. Cool. Now, so if we want an Urson tribe everywhere, then we will have the little panda tribe here, or maybe even the red panda tribe. I think that'll be a bit... I think I prefer that, to be honest. Some good old red pandas. Now, so we got like... grizzly... Okay, so where are grizzly bears native to? So it's like America. Okay, how about black bears? Kind of the same area. What kind of bears are native to South America? Okay, so that's the spectral bear, so I'm going to treat that as more like a black bear in this case. So black bear down here, then we'll have some kind of like grizzly bear here. We got the red pandas here, the polar bears here, and what kind of sign are native to African continent? There's something called an atlas bear. How does that look like? Let's see here. Just gonna bring up a couple things. Because I really want them to have like different appearances from each other. Oh wow, they do look a bit different. They're probably more similar to grizzly bear in terms of appearance. The last African bear. Interesting. Okay. Now, let me just see if I got any other results on my little search here. As laggy as my thing is being. There are none in Africa, Australia, or Antarctica. Okay. There are 8 species of bear worldwide, apparently. So let's look at what these 8 species are, and we might just drag and drop one for our own purposes. So bears live on several continents, pandas in Asia, polar bears, brown bears, and black bears. Okay. That makes things difficult. Okay, but they're extinct in Africa, but they did live there. Brown bear, spectacled bear, polar bear, black bear, sun bear, sloth bear. What's the sloth bear? That sounds interesting. Oh wow. That looks interesting, and that looks perfect for what I want in South America. So I'm gonna put the sloth bear here. I'm just gonna go ahead and put a random ass black bear. Actually, no, let's make that a brown bear in the west, and we can have like the black bears in the central. Oh, actually, no, I am gonna swap that back around. Cool. Alrighty. Now, I still got a couple others I need to flesh out. So the central continent is still missing some kind of like hippo slash rhino equivalent. As this is the south, I like the idea of a hippo tribe being down there. So we'll just whack some rhinos in the center for the sake of having them. And I'll kind of just get rid of armadillos. That works for me. Oops, let me get rid of that. Okay, cool. So we've got 5 here, 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 and here, but we're missing 2 here. So what are we missing? We are missing a canine as well as a hoofer. So what kind of hoofers are native down here? And since we have the sloth bears, I'm gonna remove sloth there. So what kind of hoofed animals are native to South America? Okay. Let's see, I've got some results here. So we've got the bison, the camels, the warthogs. I really want to do something with like some form of stag. And considering the other ones have zebras, horses, bulls and goats, yeah, we'll do some kind of like stag, gazelle, elk thing here, which just lays some form of canine. Okay. Now, what else do we have? Do we still have any kind of canine listed anywhere? Probably don't need buffalo anymore, we kind of got what we want for that. What is a capybara exactly? Okay, yeah, I remember, we're not doing that. I want some kind of like rat tribe as well, so we'll think about that. Porcupines might be a bit too unique. I don't know if we want any kind of like monkey tribe or whatnot. Now, what's a aardvark? I kind of roughly remember. Yep, not doing that. Ebex. What is an Ebex? I'm just looking at some of these animals, which I can't really... Ooh, okay. Interesting. I might put those there. They sound... I feel like they've got like really cool horns that we could basically do something special with. Okapi. Basically like some kind of combo horse zebra thing by the looks of it. And we also have aurochs. What are these? Okay. What other things I'm thinking of doing at some stage is maybe showing search/image results on stream as well, but I don't know, I think I kind of like having the actual section itself as like the main kind of reference, and what I might do is renew an art subscription thing and basically maybe produce some image results of these and bring them onto the screen. If that's something I can do at some stage, but okay, aurochs are basically some kind of like bison thing by the looks of it. So I think we're good on those. And what about tarsier? No. Okay. So I think we're pretty good for the most part. And so we kind of got 6 races up. I also want some kind of 5 rodents and maybe 5 kind of monkey-esque races. I think that's pretty solid. So what we're going to do is we're going to say where are honey badgers native to? They are native to Africa and Asia. Tassie devils we're basically going to have on the southern continent. Mongoose are Asia. And I imagine wolverines are going to be like the Americas and Europe. North America, Europe, and Asia. Cool. So I need one more kind of animal similar to these ones. So let me just go ahead and put some of these in first. So, actually, what are we missing here? So we got we need a canine still. That's right. I'll leave a little note for that. So south is going to be Tasmanian, kind of devilisk. Then mongoose is here. Honey badgers are here. And then wolverines can kind of go in either of the above. And I kind of need one more to pair with them. Alright, then we also need a monkey and a rodent for each. Okay, cool. And I think that's pretty solid for now. But with that said, I think we've made some pretty good progress here. So I'm thinking I might go ahead and get some lunch. So that'll probably be it for the stream today. I think I'll be back next week. And yeah, I did want to do a stream yesterday as well. My days and yesterday's kind of time slot are going to be pretty occupied for a while in the foreseeable future, but hopefully once things kind of calm down for me, I can reinsert something there. But yeah, no, with that said, I'm just going to go ahead and get some food. So thanks for coming to Vibe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye for now.